In this Python project, we will build a GUI-based expense tracker using the tkinter, tkcalendar, and SQLite libraries and the message box tkt modules of the tkinter library. It is an intermediate level project where you will learn a lot about databases and GUIs and apply them in real life. So let's get started and hear about the expense trackers. An expense tracker is a desktop application that keeps track of all your expenses and stores all the information regarding them, including the person to whom you have paid the money, which is also called pay, and the reason why you paid the money. Now I'm here to tell you about the project. The main motto or the objective of this project is to create a GUI based expense tracker. To build this, you will need an intermediate understanding of the tkinter library, SQL language and its commands, and basic understanding of message box module, TTK, tree view widget, and TK calendar library. The project prerequisites are: to build this project, we will need the following libraries. First, tkinter to create the GUI. A message box to display a box containing information, warning, or error or asking a question. B. TTK tree view to display a table in the GUI window. Second, TK calendar date entry to enter a date. Third, SQLite to connect the Python script to the SQL database. Only the tkinter library comes pre-installed with Python, so you need to run the following command in your terminal to install them. The important modules and libraries are datetime, SQLite, and TK calendar.
So our next step is creating the database and data manipulation functions, where we'll create all the functions for all the buttons on our expense tracker window. The one thing common in all the function is that we will make the scope of all the entry fields and the database connector in the left frame global by using the global word. One more common thing in all the function is that it performs an operation regarding one single expense, that if there is no selection in the table, it will display an error message using the mb.showError function. mb is we imported with message box in our modules. More common things that a function deals with is the data of two statements, that is connected.execute and connected.commit. The first statement takes an argument which is supposed to be an SQL command is used to execute that argument as an SQL engine. And the second one is used to finalize that change and perform it in the database. Moving towards the functions that are defined in the workspace here, it's like list all expenses function, where we'll delete all the children of the table, then get all the data from the database table using the connectors select command, and then we'll insert all it to the table using dot insert method of it. Moving to the next function, that is view expense details, we will get the values in currently selected item of the table, then set the values of string var, int var, or date entry variables to the corresponding indices of a tuple containing the values of the set selected items. The next function is clear fields method, where we'll set all the string variables to an empty string and the date entry variable to a current date. Next function we have is remove function, where we'll get the values of the currently selected item in the table and ask the user if he really wants to delete it. If he or she wants to delete it, we will delete it using the delete command in the execute commit method combo of the connector. Next, we have remove all expenses, where the function we will where to the function we will ask the user if they are sure they want to delete all the expenses that we have stored for them using the message box dot ask yes no function. If they reply yes, we will delete using the delete from the table command as an argument to the connector.execute and connector.commit methods. Next, we have add another expense. In this function, if any of the entry fields is empty, we'll display an error message box. Otherwise, we will enter the insert command in the connector's execute commit method combination, then clear all the entry fields and display the updated table. Next, we have edit expense function that not only makes changes in the components present on the window, however, with the nested edit existing expense function, we get the contents of the selected record in the table and then use the update command to edit the data in the table with the help of an ID of expense, which user cannot edit. The next we have is the selected words to expense. In this function, we simply check if there is a selection in the table. If there is, we will display an information with the message telling the user how to read the expense using mb.showInfo function. The next function is expense to words before adding. Function is to tell the user how to read the expense before they add it to the database. This is to make sure that they are confident with the data entered and how it will be interpreted by others. In that function, we will take the contents of the entry field and do something similar to the previous function, except the information box will now be a ask yes or no box, where if the user presses yes, the expense will be added in the database. Here we finish with the second part of the code. Moving to the next part, which is connecting the database and creating the graphic user interface window, that is our GUI window, where in this step we'll connect a Python script to an SQLite database. Here all the information will be stored and our GUI window can be performed. To connect the database, we will create a connector here, and we'll be creating a connector instance using the SQLite.connector to create a database, activate it, and perform function in the database using the script. To create a GUI window, we will first create an object tk that will become our main window. Then we will set it basics attribute and move on to placing components and widgets in it. Our first widget is the static text saying expense tracker packed at the top of the window. Next, we have 3 frame widgets that will contain different aspects of our GUI window. The frame on the left side of the window contains labels and entry fields. Here the details about a new expense can be entered or the details about an existing expense can be viewed. This frame also has 2 buttons, one that adds the expense to the database, where when pressed, the others can show how you read the expense before you add it to the database. The frame on the bottom right of the window contains a tree view object. This acts as a table where the data from the database tables is displayed. And then lastly, the frame of the top right side of the window contains the buttons that can perform certain operation on the expense selected in the table or the database as a whole, such as editing the selected expenses, converting into words, and delete it or delete the entire database.
This is a demo of expense tracker where we can add an expense, edit it or delete it. Let's take an example. I'm just adding an expense of food for an amount of 500 rupees. Pay is self and the mode of payment is cash. I'm just adding it. The expense has been added to the database. If you want to convert the expense to a sentence, we just have to select the expense and click on convert expense to a sentence. The expense has been converted to a sentence. Okay. If we want to delete an expense, then we just have to select it, click on delete. Yes, expense has been deleted from the database. Thank you.